Good afternoon, students. I welcome you on the next series of the run, that is reskilling, upskilling, and acquiring new skills. And the topic for today is, and the speaker for the day is CA Sharad Atmaram ji. And we have our moderator CA Ankit ji. So I hand over the session to CA Ankit ji.
Thank you.
Ankit, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I see Ankit Kothari. Welcome all of you on today's webinar on the topic Persuasion and Influence in Professional Settings, organized by Board of Studies Operations of ICAI. In today's scenario, there is dynamic role of chartered accountant. The chartered accountant role is not limited up to the financial reporting. It's up to regarding strategy making, regarding wide range of, there is the CA must be included in the wide range of stakeholders, including clients, regulators, boards, and cross-functional teams. So we are here, CA Sharad Atmanam Vaje sir, to introduce us about the role of a chartered accountant and about the topic on persuasion and influence in professional setting. And Mr. CA Sharadji Atmanam Vaje sir is a fellow member of ICI. He is in practice for more than 42 years. He was the managing committee member of Pune branch of ICAI during 1988 to 1991, and he was the chairman of the Pune branch during 1990 to 1991. He has written many articles on taxation, company law, banking, etc., which were published in Economic Times, Taxman, etc. He had written weekly replies to taxation issues asked by general public in Delhi Circle. He is also a retired associate professor from BM College of Commerce. I hand over to CA Sharad Atmanam Vaje sir to introduce us about the topic on pursuance and influence in professional setting of chartered accountant. Hand over to you, CA Sharad Atmanam Vaje sir. Thank you.
At the outset, I thank the Board of Studies of ICAI for giving me this opportunity for the entirely new topic from my point of view. For the simple reason, for the last 40 years or plus, I am just handling the taxation issues and professional misconduct issues and had never been to on such topics. So I had to make use of the AIs given by our own institute in preparing this lecture. So it might be helpful to you. And I really do not know how far I will be able to speak to you on this altogether new topic from my point of view. First is persuasion and influence in professional setting. That has been the topic assigned to me. Now, the persuasion is a noun derived from the word persuade, verb. Now, what it says, persuade means to make somebody to do something or believe in something. That means if I persuade you or if I persuade a commerce graduate to do the CA articleship with me, it is a persuasion. I'm making him understand that why he should join the firm or why he should not join the other firm. That is a persuasion. So what is that? Persuasion is an act, it's a noun, act of persuading somebody to do something or believe in something. So as against the influence is the power to affect, change or control somebody or something. These are pure dictionary meanings of the word persuasion and influence. Now what we see is, actually we are day in and day out concerned with the financial statements, the taxation issues, the various returns that are required to be filed, maybe under the GST or the TDS or the tax returns. So we are not really understanding the scope or the concept of persuasion and its influence in our day-to-day practice. See, what we see is that knowledge, everyone has a knowledge. Once you are a chartered accountant or pursuing the chartered accountancy course, a basic minimum level of intellectuality is expected and accepted by all of us. So everyone has a knowledge. Now, by persuading, you ask other person to be heard. That means if I have got a knowledge and if I do not let you know, then what is the use of that knowledge to me? Or what is the use of that knowledge to you? So persuasion knowledge is what you have in you, whereas persuasion you make others to be heard by you, and with that procedure you allow or the influence gets the things done. So these are the two stages. Persuasion is the first stage, and influence is the second stage. Second stage, in sense, in the first one, I try to persuade, I try to convince, I try to let you know with to the best of my knowledge and ability why one should do it, why one should not do it. Now, based upon that, I can pursue my client, my colleague, or my junior charter accountant, or my articles because of persuasion. I have a knowledge. I am parting with that knowledge to asking you to do something or not to do something. Now, based upon that, I can pursue. But unless I have got a command, unless I have got a respect, unless I am straightforward, the other person may not be in a position to get influenced, and in the process, he may not accept it. So, my understanding or my interest is to influence the other person with the help of my knowledge and my persuasion, expertise, whatever I'm having, to let you know to act the way I want to act. I want you to act. Now, to give an example, when in 1984 the tax audit was introduced for the first time. In 1984, tax audit was introduced for the first time, and earlier the concept of tax audit was never heard anybody in the world, frankly speaking. Even at that time, I had just started my practice, and about 2 years had gone by. I started my practice in 1983, and in 1984, the tax audit got conceptualized or was introduced in the statute. So everyone was taken aghast, at least how to tackle with tax audit, because what we were used to do, the company audit, the partnership audit, if required by the partnership did. Otherwise, mostly it is related to company audit only. Other concept of audits were not there at all. So it was altogether a new concept. So when we thought of it and when we studied it, it was the difficult part for us to understand at that time, and more important, to convince the clientele that how tax audit is beneficial to you. Because initially everyone thought that it will be an additional cost, because earlier in case of a proprietary concern or a partnership concern, when the audit was not compulsory, we used to file the returns of income, and that was the only filing fees we were getting it. Once they realized that the audit have got to be done, then they thought that this is an additional cost burden, or it is some chal has been done by the chartered accountants to have more activity, more business, or more professional opportunities. So we have to convince that again, on the basis of our knowledge and on the basis of persuasion, that it is ultimately in the interest of the assessee, in the interest of the taxpayer himself, that if he gets the accounts audited, at least there is the prima facie assurance that nothing is wrong with the accounts, and all the stakeholders will believe on the audited balance sheets. And when the audited balance sheets are submitted to the tax authorities, at the face of it, prima facie, what we call it, they will believe that it shows a true and fair view, or nothing is hidden, or there are no misstatements. So based upon that, we could convince to our clients that it will not be an addition, even if it is an additional cost to you, it will be in the interest of the taxpayer only in the long run, because it is a win-win situation to all the stakeholders. Like assessee will get his accounts audited, then the tax department will rely on the audit, and the chartered accountants will have professional opportunities to conduct the audit. Now, in this case, we could convince that ultimately it will be useful to you, because less number of cases will come up for scrutinies. Because whatever information, whatever books of accounts when produced before the tax authorities, now they have got little time, or relatively do not have sufficient time to go through each and every transaction, each and every voucher, or the books of accounts of the taxpayer. But that responsibility has been cast upon the chartered accountants, and based upon that, they have given the format of reporting in which we were making the report. So they were getting what are the negative points with reference to the books of accounts, and based upon that reporting, the assessment became very much easier. Now, all of us may be knowing that in reality, nowadays, the number of tax cases that has taken up for scrutiny has fallen below 1% because it is believed that in 99% cases, whatever is filed is accepted, because in case of business profession, most of them have been backed by the audit reports or audit procedures. Now, whenever there is a procedure, what is known as psychology of persuasion, what we call it. First one is reciprocity. Now, when we say reciprocity, simple word is be a good listener. If I'm going to pursue a particular aspect or a particular thing, then obviously the other person is not willing to accept me, to act upon me. So his negative points or his doubts, his difficulty he is going to raise. Now you have to be a good listener so that you are in a position to clarify those doubts, to clear those doubts. But if you simply say that, do what I do, don't ask me questions, then obviously the resistance will be there. He will not be easily persuaded. So there should be reciprocity. That means, in a sense, when you are telling him to do something, then he is also raising his grievances, he is also raising his objections or certain issues that you have to listen to. And having listened to him, you are in a position to give the solution or to give to clear his doubts, and to conviction becomes very much easier. Then the commitment and consistency. See, while pursuing a particular issue, then you should be committed to that, and there should be consistency. In a sense, if I tell you to do something, and next day if I tell you to do the exactly opposite thing, then naturally the other person will not believe on you, and your persuasion will fall on deaf ears, or he will say that the third day he will come out with a third different solution, then which one should be followed. So better they should be consistent right from the beginning, and you should be committed to whatever you're going to say. That means if you give a particular advice to do a particular thing, you are in a position to defend yourself in subsequent situations if need arises. Then social proof, it will be many times becomes easier to provide a social proof. In a sense, if you can tell them that in society such things are not looked after properly, or in society such things are not undertaken, then you are the exceptions, so you may land in trouble. Just to give an example, many times a question the client do ask us that I wanted to sell a property for 1 crore of rupees, but the buyer is asking for say 40 lakhs in cash and 60 lakhs by check. Now, in this situation, this is a common situation we face every chartered accountant or every person. Should I accept 40 lakhs cash, or should I go for 100 lakhs rupees by check? Now, in such situations, whenever they approach me, from my point of view, I try to persuade them that, look, what you're going to do this 40 lakhs, you have to keep it at home. If you keep it at home, there's a likelihood that the theft will take place, a dacoity will take place, and lose the money. If you keep money deposited into bank, the tax authorities will come to notice, and again you'll be taken for scrutiny. Then nowadays, instead of carrying that risk, because if the department finds out 40 lakh rupees cash deposits into your bank account, then probably they will tax it at the rate of 68%, 68 under section 68 at the rate of 60% plus interest plus penalty. So it will come up to almost 85-90% of your total deposits. So it is not worth proceeding to that extent, and the buyer is reducing his unaccounted money and transferring it to you, and what is benefit to you. But if you accept that 100 lakh rupees entirely by check, you can lawfully, legally invest the money into bank deposits and earn interest therefrom. But if you keep 40 lakhs in cash, even if you open that box after 1 year, you will get only 40 lakhs. Not a single rupee will be added, because as we say, cash is the most or the worst idle asset. Cash does not generate anything on its own. But if you keep this 40 lakh rupee deposits into the bank at least at the rate of say 7%, you will get 2.5 lakh rupees or 3 lakh rupees by way of interest. So this is how you can persuade, and because of the experience, because of the some expertise which I am having, the client gets influenced and they accept that, or they tell the buyer that, yeah, we are willing to sell if and only if we get 100% by check, then only if the deal will take place, otherwise we are not interested. So these are the common things which come across in the practice of a professional chartered accountant: how much to sell, at what price to sell, and all these things. Third is authority. Now, in this case, authority lets you know the other person that you have adequate knowledge, expertise in the field. And again, if you are not in a position to have that authority or expertise, it is very much better to tell at the beginning. Just to give my own personal instance, if anybody asks me a question on GST, I tell him point blank, I do not understand GST because I had never practiced on GST, right? For the last 42 years, I'm practicing on taxation and taxation only. I do not know about GST. So, but if I start giving the answer based upon Googling the information and then replying it to the client, and the client is nowadays are more knowledgeable than many times the chartered accountant, then we may get exposed about the lack of our authority, lack of our understanding. And once they establish that I do not have sufficient experience, expertise, then probably they may not come to me in future, or they may not be my clientele also. Then liking. Now, persuasion, it should be to the liking of a person to whom you are asking to. In a sense, suppose if I insist upon a person that you must see tennis matches being played in the next month, French Open or Wimbledon and so on, but the other person is only interested in looking or seeing the cricket matches. Now, tennis is not his liking. Howsoever, I may be having a command, I may be having an authority, or I may be in a position to persuade him to go for or to see the tennis matches. If it is not to his liking, obviously he will be never. So in the first one or two dialogues, you will realize that whether whatever you're going to tell him, whatever you're going to advise him, for whatever reasons you're going to persuade him, whether it is to his liking or not. If it is not to his liking, your persuasion will fall on deaf ear. Deaf ear. The next one is scarcity. Scarcity, in a sense, many times you have to imbibe some fear in the minds of your client or other person. Scarcity, in a sense, that you can tell him, see, we have been left with only 8 days to file the return of income. If you come tomorrow, then only your return will be filed within the next 7 days. If you do not come in time, then there will be delay in filing the return of income. Then that will make him act after our persuasion, and he will see to it that he gives the information, data for filing return immediately on the next day. Because even this has been my practice in reality, that if the due date for filing return is 31st July, which is the normal case, I tell point blank by way of email to all my clients that if you give the information by 15th of July, then only I can assure that the return will be filed before due date. But if you approach me thereafter, I cannot guarantee the return will be filed in time. Because you are coming to me, say on 25th of July, asking me to file the return of income because last date is 31st July. Now I am making injustice to other clients who have given me the information earlier. So I tell point blank to my client that now other clients have given me the information in advance as if they are not proper. If they feel that even if I do the work, even if the information is submitted in the last week of July and the returns are filed, then everyone will start coming to me in the last week of July only, and it will not be possible for me to file the returns, all the returns before July. So let us have some persuasion to our client that these are the dates. That means we have some scarcity. I have got less number of staff compared to last year, or whatever the staff your case was handling. He has now been transferred, or he has now completed his articleship. So he's no more working with you. It's a new person. So you have to convince him. You have to give information right from everything, whatever you have. So that sort of scarcity you can create it. Now, this persuasion framework, what we call it, it states application in CA practice, authority, 3 trusted advisor image, scarcity, tax deadline divergency, and reciprocity. I have just explained that giving him a last date, I will not be in a position to file your returns, or if you give the information by 15th of August to complete the audit by 31st August, the time limit may not be sufficient to justify myself that I am doing it just for the sake of it. Now, the framework of CIA, it's credibility, interest, and action. Credibility comes from how you speak, behave, and follow through. Interest means understanding their goals, not just your truth. And the last one is action means ending with a clear next step. I'll see one by one. CI, the previous slide. Yeah. Credibility. Now, how you speak. If you speak in a dictating terms, it will be difficult for the other person to accept. If you tell him that you do it, there is a resistance, psychological resistance. But if you say, let's do it, even this is useful, even in our day-to-day life, like articleship also you are undergoing. If I tell my article assistant that, now this is the record, now complete the return, then obviously he will just go through the pages afterwards, and he will have little knowledge, or to the best of his ability, he will be able to work upon it. But before handling him or before giving him a particular assignment, if I tell him right from the beginning that how long he's with us as a client, what is his nature of business, what are his issues, now what is the information which he gives, what is the information which we require from while filing return return, that means if you guide the article student properly before he commences the work, then he will feel that he is getting some credible information, reliable information. He is getting a backing from the principal to do a particular work. As to the interest in understanding their goals, not your interest. The interest of the other person is to be kept in mind all the time. But that interest you have to modulate, you have to modify to your that suits your action or inaction, that you can tell him that if you can complete this assignment within a day or two, then the new assignment is coming up which is more challenging, and you have sufficient knowledge or hard work which you are in a position to complete the work. That means that will give some encouragement. You create some interest in him, then naturally he will be tempted to do the work. So the persuasion becomes quite easier. And action means I'm giving you the work, I'm persuading to do it, you are accepting it, but thereafter, till the work is completed, till the task is completed, it is my bounden duty to inquire from time to time how far he is progressing, if there are any issues while doing the work, or if there are any doubts which you are not getting it solved from the client, then I'll be there to help you out. So that is how the action will make him to understand that it is persuasion will lead to completion of work within a time. Now, many times the board of directors feel that audit is, frankly speaking, they say that this is useless because it is extra cost, it is extra burden on us. We have got day-to-day control. Especially this is heard from family managed boards, like husband and wife are two shareholders, husband and wife are two directors, and they have formed a private company, and we are doing the audit. So initial response is then, see, we ourselves are the shareholders, we ourselves are the directors, we are husband and wife. Why our accounts needs to be authenticated by some third person? That is the resistance which they feel every time. So it becomes for me to persuade them that this is in your interest. The tax scrutiny will be minimum, or there may not be any tax scrutiny at all. The bankers from whom you are accepting cash credit or you're seeking term loans, they will accept the audited accounts, or even the at other government levels, or if you're filing a tenders with government authorities, even they also require audited accounts to know the genuineness of your activity, to know the genuineness of your profits and all these things. So that makes the board to realize that audit is more in their interest and less in the interest of the auditor. Because the board is protected, they can very well say that our accounts are audited, so our accounts are reliable to every person who is using the audited or financial statements of that particular company. Then what type of communication you should have it while persuading or while making the persuasion? So if you write that, use the word we rather than you. As I told you earlier, that you do it, it will be better, let's do it. So when you say let's do it, that means you are including your involvement. Even if you give 10% of your time, of the total time, still it is sufficient for the other person to work. But if you say that you do it, then probably 100% burden will be on him and he may not like it. It will be difficult for him to persuade. So instead of using the word you, let us use the word we, or let's say, let's do it. Let's study this particular aspect. Let's sit out together. That will help the other person to understand that you are equally interested in this particular assignment, in this particular persuasion. Then small tonal shifts, steady tone, open posture, and thoughtful emails. In a sense, unnecessarily many times, we have a habit of raising our tone if the other person to whom you're try to communicate, you try to convince 3-4 times, and if she still doesn't understand, this is quite natural, common, that we increase our voice. When we increase our voice, the other person goes one step backwards. That means he will be in a position to listen, but he will not be in a position to understand. So understanding is more important rather than listening. Same case is with communication, which is non-verbal, like email, letters, etc. So if you write a letter to your client that take note that, no, or you are hereby warned that, no, why these words are required? You can communicate that now there is a change in the tax law, there is a change in the company law provisions, and we have to take a joint sitting to understand what are the consequences of these amendments. So what I'm stressing the word, we have to take a joint meeting or a joint sitting to understand the consequences of amendment. Rather, what happens in most of the cases, we just take out the amendments and post it to the clients. Now, these are the amendments, you should take care of it. Rather, let us sit together, let us have some sort of a conference, maybe a conference call like on Zoom or like that with say half a dozen clients, and explain them what are the changes that has taken place from the next year. And that is how we are having this meeting. So let us have meeting to discuss a particular issue rather than dictating a particular issue to a clientele. The next is influence during conflict. Don't fight, acknowledge their concern, validate it, and direct it. As I told you earlier, don't fight in a sense. You should be a good listener first. If you are going to persuade something to your colleague, to your assistants, to your clients, or even to your departments, income tax department, GST departments. So don't fight. I just tell you my own personal example, which again I had an occasion in the tax assessment long time back. I was arguing on behalf of my client like anything, and the deputy commissioner was also challenging it in not proper way, also raising his voice. Then he told me that, look, Mr. Wazir, you are arguing like anything. But sir, absolutely correct. I have been paid for that. And you're also arguing like anything because you're defending the revenue. But there is nothing personal in between. I'm doing my job, you're doing your job. We are friends, or we are nothing impersonal. He immediately toned down his voice and he said, why we are fighting unnecessarily? Let us have a tea on this. So we had a good tea on it. Thereafter, we had a good relations with him, because when you defend yourself, the other person may not like it, then naturally you are tempted to fight. So don't fight. You must have heard or you must have seen it that in the court, the advocates from both the sides argue like anything, but after the session is over, they have a cup of tea, or they have one cup and they divide it between the two because they are friends outside. So likewise, no use in fighting it. But if there is a fighting spirit by the other person, you listen to that person. Having understood his problem, then you can reframe yourself in a different way to persuade him. Then long-term influence, reliability, composure, and presence. I have this one for you. Well, persuading, what is required? Your reliability. That means you should feel reliable by the other person. So while speaking, you have to be very serious, because if you take everything lightheartedly, then other person will also take it in the same manner. So we'll also not listen it carefully, sincerely, seriously, because he says you're always laughing and you're giving some advice for me to do, but there was no seriousness in my telling him, then it will not be effectual. I should be composed and I should be presence. In a sense, I should know what I'm telling you. That's why I have given a quote, and the quote says, speak less, But when you speak, let people stop and listen to you. That means if you speak 10 lines and the fighting will ensure, then you listen to him first, compose yourself, reframe the issue, and speak less. In a sense, after having heard for you for about 30 minutes or so, now I have understood what are your problems. Now you just listen to me. And after having listened to me, then we will discuss again. So in this way, speak less. But when you speak, let people stop and listen to you. I can give the example of our own Prime Minister, what we have seen in case of Sindoor issue. What has happened on 22nd of April was obviously unheard in our history. Everyone condemned it. He only said on that date, we will ghuske marenge. How nothing was there. Almost for 15 days, he kept quiet. And even on that, the other politicians started making fun of him. But on the night of 6th and 7th, what he wanted to do, he had done it. And at that time, we realized that why he was keeping silent for those 15 days. So speak less. In a sense, don't be. It doesn't mean that you are in a position to speak for 30 minutes. That means you are a good speaker. But all the conclusion of that 30 minutes, if you can make it in less than 5-10 minutes, which were heard by the audience, and if it is influential, then the purpose will be served. So speak less, but when you speak, you are speaking with your authority, with your experience, with your expertise, with your knowledge, all these things coming together, you are persuading, and having persuaded, and that becomes an influence for him to work or for him not to work, as the case may be. And next one is a persuasive CA gets the numbers right, and influential CA gets the people to act on them. If you simply persuade the other person, maybe your client, maybe your student, maybe your article assistant, maybe your colleague, probably your persuasion will make you that you are done your job. But that is not your job. Your job is to get the things done. Because what is the concept of influence? We have seen in the very definition, power to affect, change, or control somebody. That means to affect by persuasion, to control by persuasion, or to change the other person by persuasion. It is called influence. And that's why it says an influential CA gets people to act on them. So first thing, mere persuasion means letting the other person to do or not to do. You are not concerned with that. That is not sufficient. You have to have adequate influence on the other person so that he is in a position to act upon it, or he is in a position to listen to you or accept you, what your suggestions, what your advice, and accordingly he will work upon it. I think so far as the theoretical topic is concerned, I've got some 5-6 issues which I have listed out. The first one I had discussed it, but I'll just brief it. Client resisted tax audit, and for that, a chartered accountant calmly explained audit was to protect the client from future scrutiny, not accuse them. And when I could convince that it is for his interest, various stakeholders will rely on the audited accounts rather than self-certified accounts, then the tax audit, as we see, not because it is statutorily required, but because it serves the purpose. I know various partnership firms where audit is not mandatory because their turnover is more than limit subject to tax audit, but they are putting in the partnership deed a concept or the audit as a requirement. It is especially helpful where the two, three partners are from different families. Then one is having knowledge of accounts, the other person feels that it is very likely that the person having knowledge of accounts may not show true and fair or true and correct picture of the financial statements. But if he gets the accounts audited, then the other persons, even if they are non-financial persons, they believe that it is in their interest. Then adoption of this has happened way back. Computerization. If you are aware, in the year 2000 or so, the banks were asked by the government and the Reserve Bank to have a computerized accounts of all the banks, and they should be CBS, centralized. That means at the head office. So I know very many persons at that time, especially those who are in the age of 50 plus or so, they were believing that they may not be in a position to cope up with the computerization because it is too late to learn something new. And the government has come out with voluntary disclosures, voluntary retirement scheme in 2000. And mind you, almost about 20 to 25% bank employees sought voluntary retirement, believing wrongly, I may say, in themselves that they will not be able to work with computers. But as you are aware now, unless the computers are there, it is not possible to work. Just imagine if the Wi-Fi fails in your office, we all are sitting idle. In fact, in my office also right now, Wi-Fi is not there, but I am using the hotspot. But we have to move ahead. I could have told that Wi-Fi is not there, I can't speak. That is not the way. So these are the adoption of new technology. There is always a resistance. You have to convince, you have to persuade, and to convince that how it is beneficial to you rather than the chartered accountant. Just to give an example, again, on this relating to chartered accountants. I do not know how many of you realize it exactly, some 35 years back, there were very few accounting softwares. In fact, the computers themselves were new one. So at that time, Tata TCS has come out with EX as accounting software, and Tally was also there, Tally 4.5, that was the first version. So there was always, we had to buy both the versions because it depends upon the client. As a chartered accountant, I cannot force my client that you must go for Tally or you must go for EX, because he will take it in a different way. That Wazir is asking for Tally, that means he's getting some commission on selling the Tally to various customers. So we had to have it both. But once in the office, we could convince that this particular software is beneficial or this particular software is beneficial, then it becomes easier to adopt. Then many times a tough question arises as to the company finalization. Datas are there. We do the aging work, which is required. Not more than 6 months, less than 6 months is not sufficient. If it is more than 6 months, then we have to do further aging for our understanding purposes, audit purposes. If a particular debtor is not paying you for last 3 years or for last 2 years, you have not sold goods to him also. That means it is not a running account. Then if he is not paying you for last 3 years, do you think that he is going to give you the money? Let us make a provision for that. Let us write it off as a bad debt. Now, the CFO is not interested in writing off because he feels that he is lacking himself in making the recovery in time. That is his outlook. But in reality, it might be something else. Now, why he is not paying? Is there any communication? Is there any correspondence with the customer, with your debtor? Probably the goods which you have supplied may not be as per the quality expected by him, and that's why he is not paying it. So it is not the fault of only the finance department or the CFO, it is the fault with the production department. And just because it is being written off in books of account doesn't mean that you are answerable therefore. And besides, if the money is not likely to be received, then it is bad. You write it off for income tax purposes. It is allowed as an expenditure. So at least whatever amount, if you write off 1 lakh rupees, you are going to save 30,000 rupees by way of income tax. And when this is convinced, communicated to him properly, there is a direct tax saving effect by writing off bad debts. He immediately accepted it. Then as to the many times we have got one or two clients who are relatively paying good professional fees, but some or the other he has communicated in your absence some information, some notice being received, and the concerned assistant or article or partner or employee has not informed you, and that's why you fail to act upon that notice. And the client asks you after the expiry of the due date. Suppose you receive a notice for the scrutiny to upload certain information, and that notice is sent to the assistant or office mail. It has been telephoned also to the concerned employee who is looking after the client, but thereafter the employee did not inform you, and accordingly you were not in a position to complete that particular task of replying. And afterwards, when the client realizes that he has not been replied properly, he has not been dealt with properly, he may feel I'm a good paying your client. Then why there is so much of negligence? Now, in such cases, first step is to accept the guilt. Okay, it was a mistake. I was not there. I will ensure that henceforth such things will not arise. And that means to convince him. And even if there is a delay, nothing is lost. We still have time. He will issue one more notice. This is the first notice which you have received. So in one notice, he will not complete the assessment. He will send you another notice. And at that time, you call me directly rather than through the procedure through the office mail. So in this case, your client, high-paying client, gets cooled down, and whenever he receives the second notice, the first thing he lets you know, and you can act upon it. But if you tell him later on that you have sent a mail to the office, you have informed my assistant, you did not bother about informing me, then how should I know? It is not possible for me to go through hundreds of mails which I receive every day. That means if you start creating your own statement which is not acceptable to him, then he may leave you. But if you say that, okay, after you have given me a call, I inquired, the concerned employee was there, he received the information, but thereafter, because of his sickness, he didn't come up. But I apologize for that. And see the system is put in proper place so that at least such notices, deadlines are communicated to me properly. So this will not happen again. But in future, whenever you receive such notice, you make a direct call to me, inform me, then I will get the information from my juniors or assistants. So this is how you have to influence or communicate. Then during the audit, especially bank audits or any audit, we come across certain accounting treatment or certain vouchers are not properly maintained. In this case also, we have to, our tone should be cool down, inform him what is the issue, why this is more important from the overall audit point of view, or if this information is not available, it may lead to qualification in the final report. So I want this information as early as possible before I complete the audit. So this is how you can persuade your client, your friends, your colleagues, your juniors, articles, to get the information, to get the work done, and then only you will be an influencer in real sense. Whatever I have spoken about this is equally applicable in our personal life, especially to your wife. You are in a position to persuade certain things to be done, certain things not to be done. And if you can convince, then you're a good influencer. I think I've been left with 5, 6, 7 minutes to ask the questions. If any doubts or if I can clarify, as I told you earlier, this is altogether a new topic to me also. So I tried my best. Hope you like it. Thanks for the patient hearing.
Thank you. Sir, there is one question from the students.
Yes.
What skills a CA should possess if they want to go into management, investment banking?
What skills?
Yes, sir. What skills a CA should possess if they want to go into management, investment, banking?
As I understand, what skills in the sense, now what is his nature? That is equally important. If he is of a defeatist nature, then he will not be a good investment banker or investment advisor. But if he is in a position to take risk, if he can take the risk in his day-to-day life also, risk means moderate risk, not something jumping from the third floor. This is not a risk. This is madness. So if he is in a position to take risk, then he can be a good investment manager. He can be a good investment banker, because more the risks, more the return. That is the financial management principle. But if he is of a nature that he wants all the time safe and secure, then probably he is not a proper person. That is what I feel.
One question. What are some common mistakes professional make then trying to persuade others?
Okay, very good one. See, Tor is human. So mistakes are bound to take place. But one should not be shy of coming out with the mistake. I'll just give one example. See, I was giving a lecture for final CA students, salary heads, normal head, all of us will understand that. You're aware that children education allowance is 100 rupees per month was exempt, subject to maximum of 2 children. And if they are hostelette, it is 300 rupees per month, subject to maximum of 2 children. So when I was explaining this, one student asked me, sir, if a person has got 4 children, 2 are studying and 2 are hostelites, will he have the benefit of for the all the 4, 100 and 300, that is 400 into 2, like that. I was taken aback. I had never prepared in this way. So I had to tell him right there itself. So I tell him that probably at that time the policy, family planning policy was hum do hamare do. So the law, I think it will be available only for 2 children, not for all the 4 children. But being a tax practitioner, and if you know the Palkhiwala's statement, if anyone claims that he knows income tax in India, he is an idiot. That is the statement in his Palkhiwala. So I went to the particular rules and I was realized, rather, I was surprised. See, clause 3 was dealing with children's education allowance, 100 rupees per month per child. And clause 4 was referring to hostelite per month per child, 300 rupees for 2 children. So clause 3 has used 2 children, clause 4 has used 2 children, and both the clauses are mutually exclusive. It was not like clause 5 that for the purposes of clause 3 and 4 above, subject to maximum of 2 children. So clause 2 has an internal limit of 2 children, clause 4 has an internal limit of two children. So next day, for the next lecture, I told him point blank that I made a mistake in my understanding. Now this is the correct law. So this is how we do make a mistake. It's not that mistakes never, or rather, there is not a single person in the world that he has never made a mistake. So mistakes do take place, but you should be in a position to accept it, especially so in the case of taxation issues where the changes do take place because of the High Court decisions, because of the Supreme Court decisions, as well as because of the other factors. So nothing wrong in making a mistake. And if you have made a mistake, you should be in, what shall I say, bold enough to say that that was my mistake. Now this is the correct position. I have studied it, and this is the real position. So mistakes are common. Even the article student, if he says that I have done the vouching and if he has not done it, nothing wrong. Tell your employer next day that I told you yesterday because I had to leave early for half an hour, so I couldn't complete the work. Now I will sit 1 hour extra. I will complete the work. So that is how you can communicate and you can inform. So mistakes do take place. Nothing wrong in making the mistake. Or if you don't do anything, then there won't be any mistakes at all.
Thank you, sir. Over to Ankit ji.
Thank you, sir.
For
Thank you
conclude this session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for providing valuable guidance to us. In the present scenario, persuasion and influence are not just skills, but essential tools for chartered accountant to excel in their professions. By mastering these skills, CA can build a stronger relationship, navigate complex financial landscape, and ultimately contribute to the success of their clients and organization. So your valuable words will help us to provide better practice in a better way. So heartily thankful on the behalf of Board of Studies of ICI to provide us your valuable time and to guidance us. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, both of you, sir.
Yes.
So we are very happy that we have the experience of such a person who guided and messages to the students. So thank you to all the students participating. Thank you all, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Good day.
Thank you, sir.